Hello, everybody. It is me, Pacific. You know what? This video is going to be called Feminist versus a Lady. The two are not the same. Viewers, I apologize. I'm trying to catch up on all the plethora of comments, and if I don't get back to you, do not take it personally. I admit, I'm a one-man band here. I do not have a radio station. I do not have a studio, and I have no public funding by viewers like you or anybody else. We do this simply off the cuff, out of my brain, out of my experiences, and we have fun. So I'm catching up on all these comments, right? And this one woman is going on and on and on with comment after comment. She's going to be the militant feminist and take on every guy, calls him a dog humper, dog humping his leg, stupid stuff. I finally blocked her. She keeps citing in women's studies, it has been proven in women's studies, and I want to say to her, lady, have you ever taken men's studies? She's citing something about all the men that killed women in Africa and all this stuff. We've been told all our lives, manginas, that we men are beasts and monsters and we're all to blame, but I have never been told by a woman to date, I am sorry for what we're doing to your men. You know what? One of my biggest things that my site is going to be directed at, one of my biggest pull my guts out activist things, is I am going to stand militantly against feminism, and I'm going to take shots at them as often as I can. My channel is about all kinds of things, but if there's one anger issue, that is it. Lie number one that feminists tell us all the time is that men want to treat women like property. Yes, there are some idiot men out there that do that. I don't believe a woman is property. Women hide behind smoke and mirrors. They say that guys are just PO'd because we can't control them anymore. Let me stop with that right there. But you definitely want to control us. You want to strip us of our manhood. You want to become men. Okay, I'm done. And I will block you women that use non-facts to support your case. This specific right here, this man that you feminists cannot stand. I also think it's interesting, you feminists love to comment on my looks, and most of you don't post a picture. Probably because you're the rabid, ugly feminist that I've described in the video, and you're getting your toesies stepped on. I don't care. Feminism is a poisonous evil from the pit of hell. I don't need to defend myself. My viewers don't need to defend themselves that agree with what I say. And feminists, there are American women agreeing with what I say because they know Pacific is not a chauvinistic pig. They know that chauvinist is not an abuser of women. Look at the room that I'm living in. This is a lady's room. I actually painted these walls many, many, many years ago when we did a remodel in this house. But this is for her guests, but it's become my bedroom while I live here. If I was such a woman hater, do you think I'd stay in here? Most men live in a shed, you know? Okay. I go to church today after I did my video today talking about lust, masturbation, and myths. And this was in the church bulletin. Allow me to read it. It was written by Don Boys. He has a PhD, for those of you manginas out there that insist on people having a degree. And it is titled as follows: Vulgar Talk, Vile Living, and Visual Immorality. Listen to this, Christians, because this hits us right between the eyes. In 1904, the Dean of Women at Northwestern University told women not to permit a man to touch her or hold her hand. Today, universities are telling females how to be sexually promiscuous, but be safe in doing so, and how to inflict pain on themselves and others for sexual pleasure. In fact, most feminine studies teach a woman to swear, strut, swagger, smoke, and spit just like a man. Fact is, that's also uncivil, unseemly, uncouth, and unchristian for a man. Yes, the times are a-changing, but not me. By the way, this was a senator of Indiana for many years. It's writing this. In the past 25 years, I have been shocked by the looseness among Christian youth. They are very free with their hands in handling the opposite sex. They seem to hug everyone, including the mailman. Their speech is suggestive and offensive, but then they are only repeating what they see and hear on television, movies, and recordings. Most of their pastors and parents are silent. I decided very early in my ministry that I would never be alone with a woman, kiss, touch, or hug a woman who was not a member of my family. So I'm not a hugger of females or trees. Admittedly, my position may be a little extreme. However, I took the command of the Apostle Paul literally when he said in 1 Corinthians 7:1, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. Yes, he was speaking of people getting married during the distressing political circumstances that would come to Christians in the Roman Empire. However, I took it literally as a young man, and I would do the same thing again. One thing is sure, if you don't hug them, you won't sleep with them. The Orthodox Jews teach that youth should not touch each other until marriage. I think the Jews can teach modern Christianity something. Of course, inappropriate touching is always preceded by evil thinking. Evil thinking is often prompted by what is seen. We should follow the example of the psalmist who wrote in Psalms 101:3, I will set no wicked thing before mine eyes. Could that apply to television shows, movies, and computers? 2 Timothy 2:22 warns us to flee youthful lust. Lust must be disassociated from attraction, since attraction is a normal and God-given response to beauty. However, lustful men objectify the female, and they assume ownership and do whatever they want with her, at least mentally. Many men assume the right to conquer her and touch, even take her body. To blame this vileness on the women, as many attempt to do, no matter how she is dressed, is stupid, silly, and strange. Blaming the woman is unreasonable, unfair, and unscriptural. Let me stop right there. I disagree with that point. Men don't have a right to just barge in and rape and take on a woman, but women that are dressed immorally are causing us to stumble. They are to blame for promiscuous dressing. They are not to blame for a man running up and grabbing her without her will. In Matthew 5, Christ revealed a new thought for mankind. If a man lusts in his heart, the sin of adultery has been committed. However, he does not place the blame on the woman, but goes on to tell a man to hyperbolically pluck out his eyes if it causes him an offense, meaning if he is caused to stumble. While that does not give permission for a woman to dress like a harlot, after all, if you dress like one, you cannot complain if some think you to be as you dress. Women don't like to hear that, by the way. It clearly removes the woman as justification for the man's sin. Consequently, flee youthful lust and be careful what you look at. Job 31:1 suggests what men should do. I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? With that thought and the understanding that if you don't see the maid, you won't be tempted to lie with the maid. I want to add something here. There's no way you can walk through this world blind to what's around us. But what he is saying, and what I believe he's saying, is if you see somebody, turn away. And I would challenge all of us men, and it's hard for Pacific to do, because I'm going to get into me in a minute. A woman that's inappropriately dressed, the best thing we could do is totally ignore her. And you watch. She'll do everything she can to get your attention then, because she's going to go, hey, that ain't right. The extension of this thought is obvious. We must be careful what we see. Christians, or even lost people who care about morality, should not read salacious literature. Students should refuse to read books filled with obscenity and immorality that is presented as normal and acceptable. Porn on the internet should be repulsed. Modern movies filled with vulgarity and nudity should be refused, and most television shows should be rejected. I agree with that. Do we follow it? No. One of the most surprising, shocking, and stunning things to me is the cavalier way modern Christians react to the culture. Books, movies, television, recordings, etc. A deacon friend defended his watching filthy movies on cable TV. He said that the nudity and vulgarity did not bother him. I did not believe him, nor do I believe Christians can watch internet porn, modern movies, and television without being corrupted. I've said that. At the 1st and 2nd century, Christian leaders preached about the theater of their day. You watch adultery and learn how to commit it. To say that filthy talk and immoral plots do not affect you is to gainsay the very philosophy of education. I'm going to stop and add something here. What does it have to do with feminism and the virtuous woman? Because feminists promote the vulgar talk and sexual immorality, and yet the same feminists turn around and call us men pigs and that all we think about is sex. But feminist women are very into open sex. They're the ones behind Planned Parenthood. They're the ones behind pro-abortion. Feminists are truly hypocrites with the biggest capital H over any mountainside with a town in the U.S. with the name H as its beginning letter. Do you understand that? The human mind has a capacity to slowly accept, approve, and act out what is observed. Let me add something. I've told you viewers often, we have been under the grid of American culture, and we've been under it so long that all of us men and all of us women have accepted and become very comfortable with its bad habits. Profanity comes out of Pacific's mouth. Impure thoughts come out of Pacific's mind and heart. I have looked at stuff on the internet. I have slept with other women. I have done things, and I used to watch TV shows and stuff. I don't anymore. When I read this today, I just sat there going, wow. This alone should be read as a sermon in every church. There is a difference between feminist and a lady. And we don't see many ladies today at all. What we see is feminists screaming and yelling about how terrible we men are, but they're doing the very thing that they complain about us men. They complain that we men wanted to treat them roughly and abuse them and look at them as sex objects, objectify them, but yet feminists promote the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression. They totally thumbs up porn. Feminists support prostitution. Feminists support abortion, which is murder. Feminists support vulgar talk, which men were told by ladies for many centuries, do not talk like that. The men were told never to spit around the presence of a woman. Now women are taught to spit. Don't tell me that feminism is liberating women. It's putting them in dark bondage. Okay, so here we go. Of course, at first you are appalled at evil, but you get over it. You no longer feel uncomfortable when you see a nude scene or a couple climbing into bed or same-sex immorality. Moreover, after hearing the dirty four-letter words for a while, they nestle in your mind and come rather easily to your lips. In your innocent days, you would have been horrified, but now it is acceptable. After all, everyone you know has adjusted. First, you find the vileness appalling, then acceptable, then approving, then comes anger when someone confronts you for that sin. Let me tell you what happens to feminists when they watch my videos. F you, a-hole, you are so ugly, no wonder no woman wants you. They have no picture posted, or the ones that do look like party flake chicks. You can tell when somebody's convicted when you tell them something nicely, or you put a video together, and I just watched for the comments to come back, and the really hateful ones, I thought, got them right here, right in the heart. I can deal with that, by the way. Recently, we were with some folks when something traumatic happened that momentarily shocked all of us, and a lady responded with a loud expletive. It seemed so natural. For a second after we realized that we were not in any danger, she embarrassingly said she was very sorry for her profanity. I said that it was probably because of watching movies and raunchy TV shows. Her reply was interesting and telling. Well, that happens when you're around people who talk that way. But my response is, why should they be around people who express themselves by cursing? I thought about sending her a bar of soap. That worked in my generation. Now, I disagree with him here. I think he's being a little too. There is no way that Pacific's going to avoid being around people who curse. I go to my workplace and that's all I hear. The kids are using it. It's all over the place. But to entertain oneself through TV and literature and internet stuff loaded with profanity or any profanity, I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong. It is not good for a man to touch a woman, and I don't want to be insensitive to where I think I have a right to handle the opposite of the same sex. I'd rather be too narrow than too broad. Dr. Don Boys is a former member of the Indiana House of Representatives, author of 15 books, frequent guest on television and radio talk shows, and wrote columns for USA Today for 8 years. His shocking book, Islam, America's Trojan Horse, Christian Resistance, An Idea Whose Time Has Come Again, and The God Haters are available at Amazon.com. These columns go to newspapers, magazines, television, and radio stations and may be used without charge or without change from title through the end tag. Normally, Pacific doesn't read a lot of stuff, but that was worth a video. The feminist I guarantee you that any feminist who hears me read this right here, written by a man who's asking women to be ladies and men to be gentlemen, a feminist would laugh. He's against cussing and holding hands. I could see it now. Christians, we have changed. You will ask me, Pacific, do you think it's wrong for Christians to date and hold hands? No, I don't. But let me tell you what. You get into kissing and you get into French kissing, that is sexual. I don't care what anybody says. When I French kiss a woman, it's all over for both of us. Petting, hands under the woman's shirt, feeling her boobs and nipples. I'm going to tell you right now, unbiblical. Hands down each other's pants, hands outside the pants, feeling body parts outside of marriage, wrong. I was going to get into being very honest and confessionatory about my past, and I thought, no, let's not go there. Let me tell you what I was raised at. When I became a Christian in 1985, the woman that I married for a year and a half, whose dad coerced and forced that, I went to him and confessed to him that she and I were doing some heavy making out and that I was feeling her because I felt guilt. Do you know what the father of his daughter said to me? Now, she was 18 and I was 18, but this is what he said. There's nothing wrong with petting. My wife and I used to do that when we were dating. And there are many Christians that think petting's okay because it's not sexual intercourse after all. I also watched the shows that he watched. There was partial nudity, profanity, and I, as a young Christian, I was sensitive. I said, Frank, should you be watching that? It doesn't adversely affect me, but he would get all over rock music that had the word damn in it. And I said, how do you get mad at a song that has the word damn once in it, but you're okay with watching that stuff? Because rock music is of the devil. Now, we've seen a lot of hypocrisy in the Christian church. We've seen people that personally don't like something and they get on a vendetta about it, but they excuse their own sins. And that goes on in every church all around the world, mostly in America. But what does this have to do with feminism and lady? Our culture sliding into the toilet has so affected the church. And don't think for 1 minute. Let me read to you this again in case you didn't get it. In 1904, the Dean of Women at Northwestern University told women not to permit a man to touch her or hold her hand. Today, universities are telling females how to be sexually promiscuous but be safe in doing so, and how to inflict pain on themselves and others for sexual pleasure. Isn't that nice? We got to pay big money to get into student debt, student loans, to go to college to hear this liberal feminist tripe. In fact, most feminine studies, women's studies, teach a woman to swear, strut, swagger, smoke, and spit just like a man. Fact is, that's also uncivil, unseemly, uncouth, and unchristian for a man. I'm going to add, let alone a woman. Yes, the times are changing, but not me. You know what? That's what education is teaching women today. We don't have man studies, we have women's studies, and feminine studies are teaching women to behave the very way that they have been very offended by men for centuries. Women, when their husbands came home from the ocean and being out at sea, even the men knew when they got off that ship, I need to watch my mouth, I need to put away my cigarettes, and I need to stop drinking. I'm going home to be with my wife. Even the sailor boys knew how to behave themselves. Today, women now act worse than sailor boys and make some sailor boys cuss, and some men find that funny. You get into biker culture with women with hairy underarms. In fact, a lot of the biker women are very, very feminist. They say they still want a man, but they talk and act tough and wear the leather chaps and all that. And I'm sorry, I'm going to get all kinds of flack on this. I like motorcycles, and I don't have a problem with guys being bikers, but I struggle with one who wants to be a lady getting into the biker culture. Hey, to each his own, but as a Christian man, There's just some things that are left for the guys, and that's just my opinion. I don't like the bad Bob image of biker culture. I like Harley Davidsons. I think they're a beautiful bike. I like Indian motorcycles. They're beautiful, and there's some very nice, sexy bikes out there. I don't like the trashy image that goes with the bikes. I don't like some of the tough wannabe bikers that are running around, the Hells Angels, the Panthers, and all the others that have raised hell and all that. Why would I get behind that? This article that I read you shows up in today's church bulletin, and I'm going to say something, men and women. Women, it is not for you to behave like men. Men, it is not for you to behave in atrocious fashion. Do I think the guy takes things a little too far as never holding hands? Perhaps. But I'm also going to be quick to admit that Pacific has been raised in the frog in the boiling water. If you put boiling water on and then you throw the frog in it, the frog's going to jump out. But if you put the frog in cold water, turn the heat on, simmer, the water slowly heats up, the frog will boil to death. And that's what's happening in American culture. Gentlemen, all of us have been affected by what we've seen on TV, the rock music we've listened to, and the general permissive, promiscuous attitude, and feminism enters into that mix. Where were the feminists when the outcry was made about pornography? Do you know who complained about pornography before anybody else? The Christian community, not the feminists. Do you know who complained about men using profanity? Not the feminists. Do you know who complained about a lot of things? Not the feminists. The feminists want to take all the male control and throw it to the ground. Even though the feminists didn't build our Capitol buildings, our state buildings, our legislature, our Senate and House and judiciary system, they didn't build our highways, our telephone poles. Women didn't even put in the cell service and the GPS service. I'm not saying a woman doesn't have value, but if you're going to rip on us men and tell us how monstrous and how awful we are, could I remind you that recording studios were started by males, that men made many women quite successful because men knew how to do the engineering and the technological things, and it was men who made movies and men who did all the very things that women take advantage of and enjoy. And women don't speak out against porn, which objectifies and turns a woman into a piece of meat and not a lady and a person of worth and value. And the feminists don't speak out about that. They just condemn us men as sexual pigs. But those feminists are running around having sex with whomever they want, including their own girlfriends. Proverbs 31 talks about a virtuous woman. That is the exact opposite of today's feminist. I will block any feminist who writes on my site with untrue facts, and I put that word in quotes. Feminists, come at me with some truth, please. Don't fill me with 99 million comments of BS. I'm tired of it. I also am going to submit, a viewer wrote me today and asked if I would do a video on the value of a mother staying at home and raising her children, and if a woman doesn't get married and doesn't have kids, should they go to the workplace? I will do a separate video on that, but I'm going to give you a teaser and say this. The woman who stays at home to raise her children and mentor them with values and manners and turn them into successful kids, not in the eyes of society's definition, but as hardworking, as loyal, as loving, as sweet, as mannerly, that's male and female, teaching a boy to be a boy and a man and a woman, a young girl to be a girl and a woman eventually. That is more powerful than what the feminists are doing for the good of society. Feminists are a wrecking ball in a china shop. It swings in every direction and breaks every piece of porcelain in the room. I'm going to tell you something. Feminism is evil. And as long as Pacific has a channel and Pacific is alive and Pacific has a voice, I will give the feminists a run for their money every time I speak. And feminists, you're going to have to come up with something more intelligent to say than you're ugly and you look like a dork. Because You're not giving any meat or weight to your arguments. I don't care what you think I look like. I wouldn't date you. I wouldn't want anything to do with you romantically anyway, because you're not a lady. And as far as I am concerned, as you stand in your philosophy at present, you have no value to anybody. Not just us males that are against feminism, but you have no constructive, wholesome, time enduring legacy value to give. So close the pie hole. Give me an intelligent debate. Oh, and the woman that wrote me telling me to watch the video why I'm a feminist, I'm sorry, but that is a video I'm not going to watch. I know why you became feminist. Because of your tiny little shred of an argument about how terrible us males are. Save it. I don't want to watch somebody's rant on why I became a feminist. I already know why you became a feminist. Because you're rebellious and you had a bad experience with a man and you lump all mankind into one bad experience. Men have had experiences with numerous women in their lives and they still don't give up on a feminine woman. But a woman has a bad experience with one man and she's going to sign up for the lesbian committee. She's going to sign up for the male bashing club. You know what, ladies? You want to be like men? Grow up, pull on your big boy pants, get over it, and don't lump us in the same pot. You accuse me of generalizing. You do it all the time. You know, Pacific's just getting started. I am sick and tired of you feminist people. You have constructed nothing but a house of cards. And you know what, feminists, let me say something with the biggest smile on my face that I can. Your house of cards is already starting to fall. And one day, God, who, by the way, God is called He in the Bible, Father, He's going to destroy all of that. And yes, He's going to deal with the bad men out there too. So don't worry. God's fair. It's not going to be chauvinistic. God is going to deal with all the wrongs out there. And guess what? Men and women aren't going to get away with nothing. But feminism, it won't be in the kingdom of heaven. It won't exist because God is not the author of feminism. The devil is. You heard it right out of my mouth, ladies. Stick that in your pipe and smoke it. And for those of you ladies, by the way, why did I just call feminists ladies? That is an oxymoron. Those of you ladies that have written me, liking what I have to say, that see the heart of what I'm saying and know that I'm not a chauvinistic female basher, thank you. Because I'm learning something. The people that are going to agree with what I have to say have their eyes opened and are driving with their eyes opened. Feminism is bad for America. It is proved destructive. It is currently the reason why things like Obamacare, why all this stuff gets passed. And yes, if people can say, well, that was a bunch of men. No, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, and others were on that too. Feminism wants to take away my rights as a man and wants to take away ladies' rights. Feminism laughs at women who want to stay home and raise their children and says, you're not doing work. By doing that, you should have a career. We're going to deal with that in the video. Feminists stand on a lot of BS and not a lot of facts. And it's all emotional and it's all a tirade. And at the end of the day, all that's left of feminism is a bunch of women wanting to act like a bunch of vulgar, uncouth, disgusting male pigs. You know what? Feminism has failed. This is Pacific signing off. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.